Hey there friends, it's Goober Troy here. The Diablo 4 beta is almost coming to a close, but I just wanted to share this rogue build that I have been finding a lot of success with. If you've seen my previous videos talking about some of the rogue builds, this one is kind of on that list. It's the first build I went over, but not quite the same. There are some interactions in here that I kind of didn't foresee, and they've been paying off pretty well. So I wanted to go over what this build is very quickly. So the first core ability that we're going to go over, kind of what this build entirely revolves around, is twisting blades. This is going to stab your target, and it's going to increase the damage that target takes for a little bit, and then shortly after, the blade is going to return to you, dealing more damage on the return. And also there's a modifier in here that when it returns to you, it's going to reduce your cooldowns per enemy that it passes through up to 3 seconds, so you get a little bit of cooldown reduction in there. For our basic attack, we're doing Puncture just to apply some vulnerability. And we can take Dash here, or you can also take Shadow Step. I have been playing a little bit with both. I kind of like Shadow Step a little bit more, but I think from a min-max perspective, Dash is going to be a little bit better because with the first modifier, you can apply a 20% crit damage buff to your target's hit for 5 seconds. And in combination with that, we can take Concealment. And with Concealment, if you take the full modifiers, you get a guaranteed critical strike, meaning with Dash, if you dash, then do Concealment, then do a Twisting Blades, your Twisting Blade is going to be a guaranteed critical strike with a 20% crit damage buff, so it has some nice damage modifiers there. To help our AoE situation, we're going to take Shadow Imbuement. This is going to apply vulnerability as well to all enemies hit, so you're applying a 20% damage buff to all enemies, so that's pretty solid. And then finally, we're going to take Shadow Clone, and we're going to take both modifiers for that to increase the damage that the clone does to up to 80%, and also going to make you unstoppable. And then in addition to all of that, there are a few passives that we're taking, namely with Exploit to increase your damage to healthy and injured targets, and also Malice to deal increase your damage to vulnerable targets. As you might start to suspect, we're applying a lot of vulnerability to our enemies, so one stat that you probably want to stack with this is vulnerability damage. In addition, critical strike critical strike damage is also pretty solid. One of the legendaries that really makes this build shine is the Twisting Blades legendary. This makes it so that on the return of Twisting Blades, those blades are going to spin around you for a brief moment. I think it does like 2 full orbits around your character, but on that return, it's going to deal a pretty sizable amount of damage, and that damage is increased the further the blades had to travel to return to you. So there are some really cool interactions where you might go and use Twisting Blades on a far target, and then you dash or shadow step to another target across the room. The blades will come back to you, deal damage to everything that it hits, and it'll start orbiting around you, and it'll reduce your cooldowns because, again, on the return from Twisting Blades, it reduces your cooldowns. And it just has this really fun, fast playstyle where you're constantly using your cooldowns, so everything has a really short cooldown. And on top of all that, your Shadow Clone is also doing a bunch of burst damage with you. So essentially, this build is extremely bursty. You can melt some bosses, but that's mostly what I wanted to show. It's a very fun build. I think this is going to be very strong. I'm wondering if it's going to get nerfed. Some of the interactions with Shadow Clone make this build just absolutely pop off. I know there are some other stronger builds out there with like Sorceress right now, but I think Rogue is looking pretty good. Hopefully you get some time to try out this build in either the remaining days for this beta or in the open beta. But this is going to be Goober Troy signing off, saying thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.